Good evening. On behalf of the commissioners and staff, I'd like to welcome you all to the January 14, 2025 City of Roseville Grants Advisory Commission meeting. Please put all electronic devices on silent, and agendas are available at the end of the staff table over there. And if you plan to speak at tonight's meeting, please complete a speaker card and return to the staff table. As a reminder, the Grants Advisory Commission meeting is being streamed live on the city's website and YouTube channel. The meeting may also be viewed on Comcast Channel 14, Consolidated Communications Channel 73, and AT&T Universe. I now call the meeting to order. Heather, will you please call the roll?
Sure. Commissioner Carroll?
Here.
Commissioner Kriz? Here. Commissioner Meeks Harris?
Here.
Commissioner Rosano?
Here.
Commissioner Reed?
Here.
Youth Commissioner Daniel Zeman? Here. Vice Chair Acosta?
Here.
And Chair Parker?
Here. So if everybody please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll now move to public comments, which is a time for anyone that would like to address the commission on any grants advisory related items not listed on tonight's agenda. Speakers addressing the commission during this time are asked to approach the podium, state their name, and are limited to 3 minutes. Again, the topics must be regarding items that are not listed on tonight's agenda and are within the Grants Advisory Commission's jurisdiction. One more thing. The Brown Act does not permit any action or discussion on items not listed on the agenda. Therefore, no action will be taken on items addressed under public comment. So please come forward if you have anything you would like to address the commission about.
Yes, hello. Hello to the commission. My name is Mary Tess Mayall, and I'm the executive director at Blue Line Arts. I definitely appreciate the hard work that the commission does, and I understand that there are going to be less grant funds for the year ahead, which I understand is due to state funding that has been previously received around COVID. But I would just like to ask if there are any plans to help grow the fund in the future, because it is an unfortunate step back if we were to have less funds, especially with the incoming administration at the federal level, which is definitely going to affect the communities that all of these nonprofits serve. I'm anticipating that our services are going to be in need now more than ever, and I would love to see the City of Roseville step up to the challenge. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? All right, well, then I will close public comment. The next item on the agenda is item 5.1, approval of the November 12, 2024 meeting amendments. Are there any corrections? All right, so I'll entertain a motion.
I motion to have the approval of the minutes.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, minutes are adopted. Item 6.1, I'd like to welcome our new youth commissioner, Daniel Zeman. Hello. I'll let Daniel introduce himself, but I do want to point out how important our youth commissioners are. They provide valuable perspective and often very wise counsel during our process. They also put in just about as much work, as we do. So, and our youth commissioners now have full voting rights. So, Daniel, take a moment to introduce yourself.
Do I need to press any?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Just talk.
Hello, everybody. My name is Daniel Zeman. I'm a junior at Wood Creek High School. I'm really excited about this opportunity. I would like to thank the commission for allowing me and giving me this opportunity. And I'm really excited to represent the youth and decisions that impact all of us. So thank you.
So I'd like to open it up to any public comment for anybody who has anything to say to welcome. No, so I'll close it. But if any commissioners have any additional remarks they'd like to make.
Yeah, happy to have you on the commission, and it's kind of neat because, this is the first year our youth commissioner has been able to vote, so you're setting a big precedent.
Thank you.
Right, thank you for participating and being a part of the process here. So it's gives you some exposure as far as what it takes, and hopefully you'll have a growth opportunity here as you continue to engage in this. So thank you for your effort and the time you're going to be putting in.
Thank you.
Excited to have you. We're highly qualified and we're excited.
All right, well, now we'll move on to item 6.2, our applicant workshop. Welcome to the Roseville Grants Applicant Workshop. We are happy that you are here. I am Neva Parker. I'm the chair of the Roseville Grants Advisory Commission. We want to make sure applicants understand what funds are available, how to apply, clarify a few points, and most importantly, answer your questions. To begin, here's a slide of our agenda tonight. We'll cover the following topics. First, we'll provide an overview of each fund and the available funds for this grant cycle. Then we'll talk about eligibility. Next, we'll go over the timeline and grant funding priorities and community needs areas. We will review the online submittal process, discuss required documents and budget, provide an overview of the application scoring questions and scoring scale. We'll talk through the application thresholds and helpful hints, and then we'll open it up to questions for applicants. After all questions have been answered, commissioners will provide a few brief comments about this grant cycle and application process. We will also pause between the slides to see if any of the commissioners have things to add that will help you. So, yes, thank you. As you can see, this year's total funds are less than previous years. Unfortunately, the Roseville Employee Annual Charitable Hearts Fund, or REACH, did not have any funds to contribute because employees are directly donating their contributions to specific nonprofit organizations. And the American Rescue Plan Act, with ARPA, funds are no longer available. So the Grants Advisory Commission has $284,710 in the Citizens Benefit Fund to distribute to agencies to improve the quality of life for citizens in Roseville. The Roseville City Council established the Citizens Benefit Fund in 1993 with the funds received from the sale of the city-owned Roseville Community Hospital. The City Council at the time voted to place the proceeds of the sale into an interest-bearing account and give 90% of the interest available annually to nonprofits for the purpose of improving the quality of life for the citizens of the City of Roseville. The remaining 10% is deposited back into the Citizens Benefit Fund to grow the principal. Since the Grants Advisory Commission was created in 1994, the Citizens Benefit Fund has provided over $17 million to local nonprofits. The REACH Fund, American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA Fund, and in past years, the Roseville Automall Community Fund provided another $1.6 million. A total of $18.8 million has been granted directly to nonprofits in our community that serve our residents and improve quality of life through a variety of programs and services. And now I'll turn it over to our Vice Chair.
A few of the eligibility requirements are listed on the screen. You can find the full funding guidelines on the grants webpage, which is on the city website, roseville.ca.us/grants. The CBF grant fund is available to 501c3, 501c4, and private school organizations. To clarify, there was an update to the policy manual this year due to the California constitutional provisions barring the use of public funds to directly aid private schools. It states, "No public money shall ever be appropriated for the support of any sectarian or denominational school or any school not under the exclusive control of the officers of the public schools, nor shall any sectarian or denominational doctrine be taught or instruction thereon be permitted directly or indirectly in any of the common schools of this state." So a private school is any school not under the exclusive control of the offices of the public schools. Public charter schools are generally not private schools. Funds will not be made directly available for private schools unless it is clear that any benefit to the private school is at most merely an incidental or indirect effect, and the direct benefit is improving the quality of life for citizens of Roseville. For example, a private school passing through funds to provide food security to its students who are citizens of Roseville has no real benefit to the private school itself, providing direct benefit to our citizens. Nonprofits must have a current business license in the city of Roseville in order to enter into an agreement with the city. Private schools and school-based nonprofit associations like parent-teacher clubs, booster clubs, and nonprofit programs are eligible to apply, but are limited to one application per individual site. The Citizens Benefit Grant goals are to assist in improving the quality of life for the citizens of Roseville, and all funding guidelines can be found on the grant website. Let's review some important dates to remember in this funding cycle. The 2025 funding cycle opened on Monday, December 2nd, 2024. The grant application is available via the link to Zoom Grants currently on the grants webpage. Applications must be submitted online via Zoom Grants by 5 p.m. Monday, February 3rd, 2025. Staff will be reviewing the applications for completeness during the month of February. The commissioners will review and score all grant applications during the month of March. The commission has a meeting set on Tuesday, April 8th, at which time we will discuss funding recommendations. The Grant Advisory Commission has an advisory role to the City Council. The City Council makes the final decision on the grant awards, and the Grant Advisory Commission will submit their recommended list of awardees and amount for Council to consider in May or June. And the most important day to remember is Tuesday, August 12th, 2025, which is when the grant checks will be awarded by this commission at our meeting night. Does any commissioner have anything to add or comment on thus far? We do want to remind all applicants that there will be a survey that's sent out once the application closes for you to provide feedback for this process.
So the Grants Advisory Commission established and the City Council approved the current grant funding priorities that reflect the community needs analysis completed in 2019. You will need to choose one funding priority from the following. 1. Strategic one-time grants for innovative projects or programs, capital improvements, or new initiatives. Examples of these special grants may be new initiatives in which you've identified a need, service, or opportunity in the community that could offer an enhanced and improved quality of life or experience in Roseville. Innovative ideas, which are based on models from other areas or agencies that attempt to take a new approach in providing opportunity to enhance or improve quality of life or experience in Roseville. Or one-time requests in which you need special consideration on a single request basis. The second is operational mission support grants for programs or projects that demonstrate effectiveness addressing a community need. The grant recipient can reapply in future years for this priority area. And lastly, small requests of up to $10,000, which can go towards either new programs or projects or support existing operations, which have demonstrated effectiveness at meeting community needs. Next, we'll go over those community needs. In the application, you will need to choose one of the community needs areas. To help you determine what area your project or program fulfills, consider, does your project or program increase access to healthier food options for lower income communities? Then select food. Does your program or project improve physical, mental, or behavioral health and wellness? Then select health and wellness. Does your program or project improve access to arts and cultural resources for all and promote a kinder, more inclusive and connected community? Then select community and special context. Does your program project provide more vocational training and educational opportunities for all ages? Then select education. And then does your program or project improve access to safe and affordable housing for all? Then select neighborhood and physical environment. Anybody have anything they'd like to add from the commission to that? No? Okay.
I will be going over the online application submittal. Although the funding priorities and community needs areas haven't changed, as previously mentioned, there were a couple of changes to the application questions and required document section. For anyone with follow-up questions, please feel free to email staff questions directly to Toby Thomas at tthomas@roseville.ca.us, or if you're in the audience, feel free to step up during the public comment section to ask the question. As it was mentioned earlier, we will have a public comment opportunity for those in the chambers with us tonight. To ask questions, if you are tuning in at home, please feel free to send the emails to the staff to get your questions answered. A direct link to Zoom Link's website is posted on the City Grants webpage. All returning applicants must log in using their existing Zoom Grant accounts. If you are not able to access your organization's login information, you must contact Zoom Grants directly in order to have them reset your password. New applicants will be directed to create a new Zoom Grants account at the time of the application. Applicants with issues submitting their grant applications can contact Zoom Grants directly at their toll-free number on the screen, but I will say it, 866-323-5404, or by accessing the help button in your account. If you need technical assistance, you can reach Zoom Grants technical support team at questions@zoomgrants.com. And now we're going to go on to everybody's favorite part, required documents. Yay! Okay, so let's go over the required documents that must be attached to the application. You will find this under the Documents tab in the grants application. There is a list of required documents that must be submitted as part of your application. If a document is required, it is marked in the required column. If a document that is required does not apply to your organization, you must still upload a document labeled with an NA in the front of the respective file name and include an explanation of why it's not applicable. If a document is not included and an explanation is not included in indicating why the document is not required for your organization, the application will be deemed incomplete and disqualified. Explanations do not need to be lengthy. For example, if you are waiting for your 501c3 status, provide the statement and any accompanying proof of pending application. Use provided forms, board authorization, assurances, and certificates, and Levine Act. Signatures need to be a wet signature, or you can use DocuSign or Adobe Sign. It just cannot be a typed-in signature. If you're providing counseling services as part of your grant application, you must provide a copy of the therapist certification form showing that they are a valid counselor in the state of California. And staff will go over the required documents in more detail.
All right. So Board of Authorization form signed by the board president and board secretary. So that is the form that's on the far left looking at the screen. Make sure you pay attention to, the required signatures. Assurances and certification form for nonprofits, it should be signed by the executive director, and for private schools, signed by the principal for the first signature. And for the second signature, nonprofits, chair of the board, and for private schools, districts, superintendent, or trustee. And then that was the middle document there. And the last document there is new this year. It's the Levine Act form. This needs to be signed by an authorized representative, which we will rely on you to make that determination, but maybe suggest a chair, a president of the company, CEO, executive director, or the highest ranking individual with the authority to sign and who would have knowledge of any such campaign contributions. All the forms are provided in Zoom Grants and must use the provided forms, and pay attention definitely who needs to sign them, because I know that was some of the issues last year. We had all sorts of different people signing them, so please pay attention to that. Next, so is the copy of the agency's filed registration renewal fee report, which is RRF1. This one has given most organizations some issues. We had a lot of calls last year having to deal with this one. RRF, all charities, regardless of receipt or assets, must file the annual registration renewal fee report, or the RRF1 form. And it has to be filed no later than 4 months and 15 days after the close of the organization's calendar or fiscal year. If the fiscal year ends on December 31st, then the form is due on May 15th. And the reason we state that is because we've had forms turned in that are like 2 or 3 years old as far as financially filing, and so that is something that I've had to call, and I know organizations are having to race to get that filed. The RF must show evidence of being filed with the Attorney General's office and must be most current, Usually, once it has been filed, there's a stamp that shows that this has been filed. So if you see on this example, usually the stamp is either at the top there on the right or at the lower bottom. It indicates that they've received payment, and they kind of initial that. If you want to check your status of your annual registration renewal report filing and overall status using the registry search tool, it's rct.doj.ca.gov. I will tell you their website is very informative if you haven't been on it. I was just on it today, so it does have a lot of information. So this one does tend to bring up a lot of questions. So just wanted to make sure to point that out on that one. The next would be the copy of the organization's active registration with the Secretary of State. Can be a copy of the registration or be a printout from their website, but must show that their registration was filed. So again, you'll see up at on the right-hand side, the example, it says filed and it's stamped. Or on the left, we will use that one as well. So it comes from their website and you could provide that as well. But those are the two forms that are required. And then lastly, the required documents, it's a copy of your current 501c3 or 501c4, the list of board members, copy of agency's current fiscal year, detailed. That one kind of throws a little bit off. You have, in the application, it does ask for the program budget, and then this one is the overall agency budget. So there's two different requirements. And then the City of Roseville business license. I will say, pay attention to that. Sometimes they're getting ready to expire, and I know it does take some time to get them because we do use a third party that processes them. So as long as you do show proof that you went in and I guess it's paid for it and it shows that kind of receipt, we will take that. But we do follow up with you guys to make sure you do get a copy of it. And then list of key personnel for the program project seeking funding. And that's it. So I don't know if you guys have any comments or questions about the required documents.
Well, I just wanted to clarify, I think this is the first year we've separated the list of board members and the list of key personnel. I know in the past, we kind of had that combined and it was a little confusing and sometimes we got either or. And this year we're asking for both separately to attach. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys, but that is a change.
Thank you.
And for me, I know that this seems a little bit onerous. There's a lot of moving pieces and a lot in here. Just a reminder that we are making recommendations to administer public funds, and there's the accountability that goes along with that we're tasked with following. So we don't just make all this stuff up. It's required for just the accountability of, and realize that it can be a challenge to put these together, but hopefully you understand that yeah, these are public funds that are directed to local efforts.
So there are other required documents if they're applicable. The first is a proof of ownership or copy of lease if requesting funds for property improvements. If requesting capital expenditure for property improvements, you must provide proof of property ownership or a copy of the lease. If you do not own the property, you must provide a letter from the property owner that they authorize the improvements. Then you also must have 3 written estimates from vendors. These capital expenditures or property improvement, let me backtrack. 3 written estimates from vendors for capital expenditures or property improvements over $500. The form is provided in Zoom grants. Recently, City Council approved changes to the policy manual to update and clarify capital expenditures. So to explain this in detail, if you are requesting grant funds for a capital expenditure or property improvement, the program requires a total of 3 bids for individual items costing more than $500 each. Again, a capital expenditure is an expenditure that results in the acquisition of fixed assets or additions to fixed assets that have benefits for more than 1 year. Examples include the acquisition of land, existing buildings, land improvements, construction of buildings, additions and remodeling of buildings, initial, additional, and replacement of equipment, furniture and fixtures, machinery, vehicles, and media materials. Policy states that individual items and projects costing $500 to $3,999 require 3 documented telephone, online, or written cost estimates. This means it can be a verbal quote, an estimate you got online, or a written estimate, but they must be attached to the application. There is a quote summary sheet form you will need to fill out as well and attach. It is 1 quote summary sheet per capital expenditure. The form is located in the Documents tab in the Zoom grants. It is very important for all applicants to understand this 3-bid rule applies to all organizations applying for grant funding. We understand that schools often purchase items under larger contracts. Even so, 3 bids are still required. If purchasing individual items, the required bids must be based on the cost of each item and not the project as a whole. For example, if you are purchasing a computer, microphone, and headset for each staff person, we would need 3 bids for each item being purchased. You can use the price of an existing contract as one bid, but you must also get 2 additional bids in order to ensure that the grant funds are being efficiently used. Verbal and online bids are acceptable. Capital expenditures for individual items and projects less than $500 do not require documented bids. Capital expenditures for individual items and projects costing $4,000 and above must have 3 written bids included with the application. Telephone and online are not acceptable for this level of funding request. We also need a copy of California, let me backtrack. The next other optional piece of documentation, if it is applicable, is a copy of the current California counseling certifications. Grant applications for organizations that are providing any therapy or counseling services must include a copy of each individual certification for all those providing counseling services. And any of the other options, there is also an opportunity to upload one document with any additional information that was not previously requested in the application that the organization feels is important to share with the commission. Would you like to go over scoring?
So now we're going to go over the application scoring process. The scale will be used in review and scoring of the applications by the commissioners. Each question is aimed at valuing how the application meets the local needs and objectives for maximizing the benefit to City of Roseville residents with these funds, particularly through community engagement, leveraging, and collaboration. The questions and scale are provided for you on this slide, and a copy of this PowerPoint will be available online with this information for your reference. A reminder, grant commissioners rely solely on the information contained in the application to guide us in our decision-making process. There are no opportunities to ask applicants for more information or get further clarification. Also, please include a budget narrative which is required and states this in the application. The staff will now go over the new application review process and what could potentially disqualify the application.
Okay, so that you all understand the review process, once the application submittal process closes on February 3rd, staff will start to review all submitted grant applications and ensure the required documents are submitted. So at the minimum, this is what is required to avoid being disqualified. All the required application documents, a current business license with the City of Roseville, and the required annual reports for the 23-24 CBS REACH ARPA grant funding cycle, which were due August 31st. So if you received funding last year, then that report needed to be turned in by August 31st, which everyone got it turned in, so there's no questions there. If you did not apply for funds, you don't have to worry about that report. Applications missing any of the required paperwork will be contacted to provide correct paperwork during the eligibility determination period. That time frame will roughly take place around February 10th through the 21st. However, that time frame could change. This period is meant to address inadvertent errors as well as manage expectations more formally upfront concerning eligibility. Most of the issues, which can be resolved over email, a meeting will not be required, but failure to respond to staff concerning application issues, whether that be in person or by other means, will result in disqualifications. And just to be clear, this is not intended for applicants to be able to submit placeholder applications. Applications must be submitted by Monday, February 3rd, 2025. Deadline in full or otherwise face automatic disqualification. So just to be clear, staff will go through the process. If there is any questions, we will reach out. Usually it's via email first to make it easier. But if we need to do any follow-up, it'll be phone call. Or if we do need to meet in person, we can schedule that. Now, looks like I guess I'm doing the helpful hints. I'd like to take a few minutes to reiterate a couple of the points or reminders that will make completing your application easier. And the commission will probably add anything helpful that they've noticed as they've gone through the process. Applicants can access the application using the link located, like we've said, on the City Grants webpage. That link will take you to the Zoom Grants page for you to set up your account or sign in using your existing login. We have suggested that you guys use a multi-use email address. We've had few applicants in the previous cycle struggle with getting logged into their accounts due to emails being specific to a staff person that may no longer be with the organization. So you would then need to contact Zoom Grants to change that. I don't have access to any of that information. So we strongly suggest that you think of something that an email that everyone has access to within your organization. We also use this email to send out communications out via Zoom Grants. So anything that is communicated to you usually is directly through Zoom Grants. And that is what is used to log into your account. Your grant application will automatically save when you advance to the next question or click outside the text box. You can access your incomplete application up to it has been submitted. Once you've submitted, it won't allow you to go back in and make any changes. Most sections on the application have instructions. However, the system default is to hide the instructions. So if you'd like to see the instructions, simply click on the Show Hide Instructions tab at the top of each section, and that will appear. So if you have any questions with that. If you have issues accessing Zoom Grants, try using a different browser. Zoom Grants can also be more difficult to access closer as the application is due. We have found that some wait, and it kind of can bog up the system a little bit. So I recommend trying to get on there earlier than later to finalize your application. If you feel the system is glitchy, this is what Zoom Grants has recommended, clear cache or your browser, refresh the page, and it should hold the past version. That is all I have and you guys have any suggestions or hints, share them with them.
In the past, I think, and if you've used any kind of online application, not specific to ours, if you know the questions and you're writing it on the side and then you can paste it back in, that way if it times out, you don't lose any information. It is supposed to automatically save, but it's just, I think, a good best practice that, you're not relying on that computer technology at the last hour and then you're staying up all night to finish the application or something.
And if I could jump in with that, I did learn, talking to Zoom Grants, plain text. It gives you, I guess, an option to paste or paste with plain text. Do plain text, so that will go into the application, because I think that was an issue with some. So make sure it's plain text.
They got anything else? Okay, great. Well, I'm going to open it up for public comment right now. You guys may use this time to ask any questions you have about the application process. When you do, please state your name and the organization you represent. And I will field the questions, but any commissioners welcome to answer. Is any questions? Really? No? Serious? Oh, okay. Fair.
Question. Barbara Haig, I'm representing the Sierra College patrons. My question is, since funds are limited due to the types of funds you collected into this grant application in the past. Anyone with eyes can see all of the building going on in Roseville, not only housing, but also a number of large corporations are moving into Roseville. Is there any effort to capture part of that development money and put it into this fund to benefit the nonprofits that serve the citizens of Roseville?
So generally, development fees that we collect are restricted in the way that we can use them. They have to be used for a very specific purpose. But it's a good point that maybe some outreach would be appropriate if so directed by council to look into a different revenue stream for the grant fund.
Good evening. Welcome, Daniel. I just wanted to maybe clarify something that you may find.
Could you state your name and organization? Thanks.
Gary McDonald, I'm the Executive Director of Lighthouse Counseling and Family Resource Center, and I am also the Executive Director of Stand Up Placer. That's the reason, I don't know if I've told you before, but I've only been there for 6 months. I've been at Lighthouse for 10 years, but I currently serve as Executive Director of both Lighthouse and Stand Up Placer. I wanted to clarify that so when you see the application, you go, why is Gary here twice? So I'm also the acting secretary for Lighthouse. So you're going to see me acting in a number of roles. I just want to clarify so you weren't confused when you reviewed the application, because I would be confused.
Got it. Thanks.
I don't know if you have any questions or not. So it's my anticipation that I'm going to be able to submit proposals to both for both organizations. Thank you. And thank you again for all the good work that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for this evening. My name's Tom Grayson. I'm the Executive Director of Golden Sierra Life Skills Father and Family Center, and I've been operating in this community for over 25 years. My question is, if we submit a fund and you find it fundable, or a application you find it fundable, will there be an opportunity for you to ask us, would we take a reduction on the amount that we're asking for?
Isn't there a question that says if your grant isn't fully funded, could you still, would you still?
Oh,
want to
okay,
go
I didn't
ahead
see
with
that
the
part.
program?
We're good to go?
Okay. And we typically, we try to fully fund as many as we can, but then there's normally a process, if you watch any of our deliberation meetings, where it's kind of like the highest scoring applications we try to fully fund, and then there's kind of a middle group. And each year it's subject to, what the commission is recommending, and then, of course, council makes the final decision on that. So, but typically we have kind of top scoring that get fully funded, then a middle tier that gets partially funded.
Okay, so with that, $10,000 is the low, and everything else above that depends on your budget and your point system.
There's 3 categories, so that third category is kind of smaller projects up to $10,000, just so we had a way to consider those separately from some of the much larger applications in the past. But you guys get to choose which category you want to be considered under.
All right, you've done good.
Okay, and additional questions, please ask staff as you're going through the application if you want to email with questions that come up.
But we have had awards that were, and requests that were significantly under $10,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. So that's not the minimum amount. So.
Good evening. Kathy Connor, Board Treasurer of Gigi's Playhouse, Sacramento. Just point of clarification. Annual report. So we submitted last August annual report for the year before. So this August would be for.
You're currently at.
Okay,
Yes.
so we're up to speed then. We're okay. Just want to make sure. I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, got it. Thank you.
It does get very confusing.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
All right, so seeing none or no more public comment or questions, I'm going to open it up to the commissioners to see if they have any comments they'd like to add. Anybody have anything you'd like to add?
I would just give a helpful hint that while you are very close to your organizations, you know very well the work that you do, not all of us are familiar. So please keep that in mind when you're writing and responding to the questions. We are trying to figure out what you're doing and how it's going to impact Roseville. And sometimes that can be challenging when you're doing the work or you're out in the community because you're so close to it. So I would just say as a helpful hint, maybe get somebody that's new in your organization to review your application before you submit it and see if it's clear to them. Or maybe somebody that's a volunteer that's not as close to the work that you do, because we all learn so much about what's available in our community every year, and we love this process. And this year it is, as it's been pointed out, significantly lower amount of funding, and so it's going to be a lot harder for us to really determine how to divide up the money the best way to benefit the citizens of Roseville.
All right, so I want to remind our applicants that tonight's workshop and a copy of the PowerPoint will be available to view online on the city's website. And there's also an FAQ page available on the website as well. And so lastly, from now until the city council makes final funding decisions, we, the commissioners, will not be visiting or touring any agencies. And with that, that concludes our applicant workshop portion of our meeting. Thank you all for, Oh, did I not close? I'm closing public comment. Sorry. Thank you. This concludes the applicant workshop portion of our meeting. Thank you all for our applicants participating tonight. We thank you for your valuable work and all of the work you do in the community, and we look forward to reading your applications. So this was for presentation only, so we won't be taking a vote for anything, but I encourage folks to stay if you'd like to stay. The remaining items on our agenda are the final report questions and the post-application survey, which you may or may not find helpful, I don't know. So just want to let you know what's coming up next. So with that, next up, 6.3, which is the review of the fiscal year 24-25 CBF Reach final report questions. Staff, take it away.
All right.
Thank you, of course.
So beginning with the 2006-2007 funding cycle, each grant recipient is required to submit a report describing the expenditures and accomplishments achieved with the grant funds. The report is due within 30 days of the end of the grant period. Beginning with the 2009-10 funding cycle, applicants who failed to submit a final report for the grant that was received from preceding funding years were not eligible to apply during the subsequent funding year or any future funding cycle until at least 1 year after the final report has submitted. At this time, I'm asking the Commission to review and discuss if the final report questions for the 24-25 funding cycle, which is what we're currently in, need to be updated. If agreed, the report questions continue to be sufficient, the final report for the 24-25 funding cycle will open by the end of January and will be due August 31st, 2025. So if you guys want to take a look at those, I believe we have a PDF, and you guys can look, see if there's anything that needs to change. If you're good with it, then I will go ahead and update, obviously, in the system so that it reads 24-25 and open it up so that I know there's some organizations that have already spent their funding and would like to start the reporting process. So I will look to see if there's anything you guys have.
Okay, well, I'll open up to the Commission for any discussion.
I have a question. Are these have changed? I'm trying to remember, like, for number 6 even, the program project continue without future grant funds. Was that something that we've had in the past?
Yeah, that, I've not changed anything since I've been here. So these have been asked as far as I know. I don't know how long, but I know this is what's been in the system, so, yeah.
I feel like that one is a newish one, but that's, I mean, yeah, and then part of this is being prompted because when we got the survey this past time, they had said some of these were repetitive. I'm trying to remember what.
I had looked at a note, and I actually made a note of it, that I believe someone had said that they thought, or they felt, question 3 and 4 were very similar or repetitive. So that was because of that comment on the survey. I thought it would be best to bring this back to you guys to review them, see if you thought they were repetitive or if you were getting enough information. What happens is the organizations fill this out. You guys do have access to review them in full, but generally I take them and summarize them, and that's where we get that summary sheet that we post. But this is also where it gives them the opportunity to talk about, where their funding has been spent, how they got there, how they measured it.
You're right, they are, 3 and 4 are a little bit repetitive in regards to the information that's being requested there.
I think they're different because one asks you to describe the accomplishments of the project or the program, and the other one asks how it was measured and asks you to specifically identify the tools that were used for measuring the results for the program or the project and how the score compared to prior years and why they're...
Whose score?
For the tool how the project was measured.
I see.
I mean, I
think accomplishments and measuring are different.
I mean, I agree with you. I think, I've accomplished some things, but whether or not it's considered successful is a different story, right? That's what you're saying?
Right. I accomplished serving X number of people with the program grant funds, and this is how I measured that the project was successful. So the project was to say provide services to X number of school students or provide a certain amount of food or lunches or backpacks. And so we accomplished providing the backpacks. We measured that by this tool to validate.
I'd like to ask Toby, since she summarized it, have you seen that those responses are very similar?
I'd have to go back, but I don't think so, because I think just like what Vice Chair said is that one was more of, describe, so if they were given $1,500, how did you spend that $1,500, and how do you see that was beneficial to the community. And by number 4, it is, a lot of the organizations do have measurable, whether it's a survey they send out or they take, it's an event, they take, the numbers of how many people were there. If it's food they're providing, how many poundages, things like that. So they do get specific. Some use software that they list that they use. However they measure those goals, they do list that there. So I know in the survey or when I do the summary, I may not be specific in that sense because it does add to it, but it is there for you guys to see. But I do check that it does usually have some type of measurable way.
Yeah, I see 3 as qualitative and 4 as quantitative. It's statistically kind of, one explains the project outcomes and accomplishments, and the other is like the nuts and bolts numbers piece of it.
Yeah, in the report, each project, it has the accomplishments and then the success measures. And I think part of this is trying to have that accountability element.
Right.
And for anyone who's still here and listening, I was going to say, it's nice too, like if you're applying for a grant to see in the past what was funded and how was success measured, that gives you kind of some ability to say, okay, this is what's been done in the past, this is that accountability part. Because I think, at least for me, when I'm reviewing the applications, knowing, it's one thing to say we're going to do this with money, but how do you make sure after the money has been spent that it did achieve, or you tried to achieve what you were intending to do? There's the, what do we want to do and what did we really get done?
Right.
Could we, I'm seeing a little bit of what, I hear what the majority is saying, but I also hear what Commissioner Cruz is saying about how it does appear repetitive. Maybe under 4 in parentheses at the end of the question say, hey, please provide statistical data. I don't know, something to that resort. If Toby finds that there is if you're finding the answers for number 3 and 4, but if there's no pattern, I would like to leave it alone.
Yeah, and I'm curious for the feedback, how many people out of the applicants reported it was repetitive? Was it the majority, 1 or 2?
I think it was just one comment that you guys picked up on.
Yeah, then based on the patterns, I mean, it seems like I love your summaries and the work you put in, so I'm guessing this is helpful in gathering that information. And if history's showing that people are answering differently, I approve keeping it as is.
I think it's like you said, it's more of an accountability too. When you read it, you know that they've actually taken the time to collect the data in some respect. And if they haven't or they're working on it, they do state that, like we're working on this or we're bringing in a software. And it might open the eyes too to the organizations like, oh, especially if it's a new organization or a new program of keeping track of it. So I do find that I think for me, when I am reviewing them, it is helpful to see that there is something there. And they don't have to be long answers. A lot of them can be really short. Some are really long. I could tell you with the accomplishments, some of those can get pretty long and lengthy, but it's very detailed. That's why I definitely encourage you guys to read them, because that's why those summaries are getting longer and longer, because it is very impressive what these organizations are doing, and it is hard for me to summarize because they're doing amazing things out in the community. So, they are taking the time to fill it out. So
Agreed.
Okay. Is there any more discussion? All right, well, I will open it up to public comment. We are going to be approving these questions, so if anybody has any questions regarding these questions, now's the time to ask them or make a comment. And seeing none, I will close public comment. And then, does anybody else have any additional questions, comments? All right, well then, I will entertain a motion to approve. Well, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the final report questions as they are.
I'll second that.
We have a motion to approve the final report questions. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the report questions are approved. Next up is 6.4, which is the review of the fiscal year 25-26 CBF post-application survey.
All right, so at the end of the 24-25 grant application process, which was at the beginning of February 2024, a survey was sent out to all those that applied for the 24-25 grant. The survey was created in SurveyMonkey and sent out via Zoom Grants. At the November 2024 Grants Advisory Commission meeting, it was indicated that the commission would like to send a survey out again to those that apply for this grant, the 25-26. So attached is the post-application survey that we sent out last February. Staff is requesting the commission to review and give direction if you feel new questions need to be added or if you'd like to continue with the same survey. And I will make sure that that is ready to go. Usually, I sent it, I think, 2 days after last year, and I think it gave it like a week's period for them to fill it out. I think we had, was it 41 or 42 applications last year, and I think we got 12 responses back. So it was good to see the feedback. It obviously opens communication with you guys on things that maybe might need to be talked about that we haven't talked about in a long time. So just looking at some direction, if you guys are good with those questions, I will update it and get that ready to be sent out when the application closes.
All right, so I'll open it up to the commission for any discussion. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I appreciate Commissioner Meeks Harris. I think last year this was your suggestion to add, and I liked it. We wanted to try to keep it short and simple, because after they finish the grant application, probably the last thing they want is to fill out more questions. But it's nice to have it right after you finish, rather than, at different times we've tried to in the fall as we're working through improvements, say, oh, what suggestions do you have? But it's been so long, and who was funded or who wasn't funded. So this is kind of, I think, a nice opportunity. So and it's on the screen, but basically, any specific submittal requirements that were exceptionally challenging or difficult, any improvements, and then the last one is just anything else you'd want to share. So I like having these. I'm open to other suggestions, but I like the opportunity to hear what the applicant's experience was.
I agree. I think it's really important to receive your feedback. We absolutely use it when we do discuss the application in the fall to look at any adjustments to the questions, to the scoring, anything that we might need to adjust. So it's really helpful when we get the information directly from those that are applying.
What were the numbers again of how many applicants actually filled out the survey?
I want to say it was like 12 or 13 that we got
Okay.
back.
13 out of what again?
41, I think, 44, 41.
Okay.
I have to go back and look, but it was 40.
Okay.
And I like the questions as they are. I think it's just the second year we've done them, so I think keeping them is good until something triggers us to say that they aren't good. So, yeah.
Perfect.
All right, so these are the end of the application survey questions. There's only 3 of them, and I'm opening it to public comment in case anybody has any questions about those. All right, then I'll close public comment. And again, does any of the commissioners have any more questions or comments? All right, so I will entertain a motion.
I move that we accept the questions from last year to continue forward this year with the end of the application process survey, anonymous survey.
And I second that.
I have a motion to approve the survey questions. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, well, then our survey questions are approved.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now we are at any commissioner who has a report that would like to make a report at this time.
Yes, my report is, of course, everybody knows that Southern California is unfortunately, the circumstances on fire. And I would like to thank our first responders, and with my hearts go out. I do have personal family and friends who have lost their homes, and I urge not only our community to thoughts and prayers sort of thing, but to look into our hearts for, different organizations, Red Cross, Salvation Army, or any other way that our community is open. But at this time, like I said, my condolences for the losses and all that type of thing. But thank you for those who did attend our grant meeting tonight, and make sure, as you heard some of the suggestions, be clear, pretend we never have heard of your organization, and just make your case and follow the directions. So, and if you have questions, please direct them to staff, and there's other things such as Zoom grants to get a hold if you're having any issues with the application itself.
Anybody else? All right. Well, then I would like to remind the public that the application period closes on Monday, February 3rd at 5 p.m. And I encourage you all to apply. Staff, do you have any reports?
The other thing I was going to ask is if anyone would like to train Daniel in Zoom grants. I know we've had some commissioners, actually, I think, Ellison, you've jumped in and helped our youth commissioner in the past, so I know that'll be for the month of March that you'll need to use Zoom grants. So I don't know if anyone, I met with them, so if you guys want to reach out or help him, that would be great to get him
I
on
don't mind
board.
doing that unless
She was
someone else
amazing in
wants to.
teaching us, so I'm just, acquiesce.
Yep, no, I'd be happy to do that.
Other than that, no, thank you for your guys' input too with all this, so.
When is our deadline for getting back to you? Have we established that for when we're reviewing them in March?
Yes.
Make sure that's on my calendar.
If I have a calendar directly on me right now, I could pull, let me see if I do. It was like, I get them to you the beginning of March, I believe, and then you usually have a couple weeks to review them, and it was like the end of March, because it'll be, I have to tally and do all the behind-the-scenes stuff to have them ready for you
Magic.
guys for the April meeting. And also that stuff has to, well, not necessarily that, but stuff has to be published too for the public. So I'll have to get back to you on the exact date, because I don't have the calendar here in front of me, but it's, oh, do you have it? It's towards the end of March. So you usually get about 3 weeks, and that was something I know when I met with Daniel, I said, make sure you give yourself time, because it can, I know you guys know, it's very time consuming, so, to make sure that you give adequate, but it's, you go to the website.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah, it's on there. But I could get back to you. I know it's, you pretty much get about 3.5 weeks, maybe, I think, to do it.
All right, I just didn't know if we had the date established, so I could make sure
Yeah,
that
yeah, it's on there.
it's on our prior calendar even.
Yeah, she's pulling it up right now. If you give a sec before going to the website, because it is on the calendar.
And then, it just, when we were talking about, with the loss of the ARPA funds and then the question about development, I don't know at what point we want to, I don't know that it should necessarily be a council recommendation from us, but the whole consideration of, how the funding has changed. I don't know.
I think too that what was hard is the ARPA funds definitely added, because from what I understand and looking back, it's about average of what we were doing prior to the ARPA funds and
Definitely was
COVID.
a bump.
It was in the 200,000 range in a sense, no more than probably
Here's
three.
the-
250-ish. So I think having 3 years of that ARPA fund or 3 cycles really obviously bumped it up. I know with REACH, we weren't seeing significant amounts of money
Right,
in a
right.
sense, so it's not necessarily the REACH. I know that previously with REACH too, we had the autumn mall fund, so that kind of bumped it up a little bit too. But we're kind of in line of what it was pre-ARPA funds.
Yeah, I mean, I think
It's
it
just hard.
Actually, this year, it's actually more than we received before we got the ARPA funds.
Yeah, I
the
mean,
280.
it varies based on the interest rate.
Interest.
So as the interest is going down and then back up, yeah.
I think it was also a point that, as the several people during public comment made, that there's been significant growth, which means there's increased needs. So I don't know at what point we talk to the city council and see if there is anything that could be done. But I think with the significant increase in population and growth, that's going to keep continuing. That does increase significantly, unfortunately, the needs in our community. So I think it is something that we would love to have just information on, if that's even a possibility or what that would look like. But we're also very grateful for what we have to be able to provide. I just think that if it's being brought up, that maybe we should
We could definitely, we could talk
Somehow.
through it. I know I do a presentation when you guys do the award, or before, when you do the awards and I have to go to council, I could potentially add that to the time of that presentation to see if there's something.
Let them know that's the feedback we
right.
received from the community that,
Right.
and see if there's anything.
Oh, sorry.
I was just to say, if it's something, because traditionally at that meeting, the chair and the vice chair show up at the city
Yeah.
council meeting. So if it's something that this commission feels very strongly about, like we could all show up and sort of make a request or something like that. I don't know, or as many of us
Yeah.
that can, but just thought.
Definitely, yeah. Looking at the calendar, so you guys should, where did it go?
March 8th.
Should get them around March 8th. I try to get them to you sooner if I can, and then you have till March 31st, which I don't know if what day that is. I could look at my calendar to see.
A holiday if it's a weekday.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, it's a
right?
Monday.
But, yeah, it's Cesar Chavez Day. So don't wait until that day to review them all. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
that's not a good idea. Not,
8th is I think is a Saturday, so the goal would try to get it to you at least the 7th, if not sooner. Because I know that when the applications close and the review process and everything, that means I'd have like the last week of February to get them wrapped up, and then before our, to get them to you, hopefully, if I could try and get them to you before, I don't think it's been around the 1st, but we'll see, but it's really the 7th, and then you have till the 31st, so that's
31st is the-
1, 2, 3, almost 4 weekends technically, so.
Yeah, no, that's good. Like I said, I just want to make sure I have it on my calendar. And then,
go ahead.
well, I was just going to say, as far as the funding thing, that might be also something, for meetings with city manager and stuff before it even goes to council, just to say, hey, this is some of the comments we're hearing. Is that something you guys have had in the list of things to consider? And
It's something that's come up and we've talked about, but certainly we'll relay tonight's to points internally to the powers that be.
Now, when's the next time that you guys give report before council?
What kind of report?
Well, just not necessarily report, but like feedback
Oh.
from the commission, or is there another way to kind of get it before council?
It would
Or-
depend on internal direction about whether or not we want to put an item on the agenda specifically for that. Normally, the points in time that we come to council are if we're doing a policy manual, recommended update, we need their blessing on. If we're doing a special, like Kone Consulting that we did, they would approve that contract. And then, of course, for the recommendations for funding.
Okay, they don't give you a time, and the only reason I'm kind of asking, because I've gone to different workshops on behalf of the city, as a private citizen, of course. But I was just curious, was there a way to say, hey, there is a greater need? So I'm looking, every way that, I know we're not going to be able to get it in this cycle, but just for future, as we know, funding is limited. And so we're just looking out for the future.
No, I mean, like Jonathan said, I can have the conversation. I can have, sit down with the city manager and see what the direction is as far as that. I definitely will make a note for when we do the funding recommendations. That's usually May, June. Just to see, because it would be for the next fiscal cycle too. So it could be something that's definitely added to that. And then I can let you guys know too at the next meeting, just if I received any direction for that, so you kind of know. And the next meeting, I think is, did you say March? Was it March?
March
Or
11th.
April?
March 11th.
March is, if you guys have anything that needs to be, usually we don't meet February, we don't meet March unless there is something that needs to be, so technically the next meeting would be April.
And all of this will be in the minutes, and each of the council members receives an approved minutes after you guys approve them, so they will receive them.
Before we adjourn, I just want to thank the staff. I know that they do manage a lot of things behind the scenes, and I'm not sure if the community knows that or not, in support of various commissions, and particularly in this one. So I always want to express appreciation for the hard work that you guys do in support of this and really in support of the community. So thank you very much.
I concur. So thank you. All right, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, if anybody has one.
So moved.
Second.
All right, so there's a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion to adjourn. Next meeting is approved. The next meeting is March 11th, 2025. The Grants Advisory Commission meeting is now adjourned at Oh, man, we almost did an hour. 6:34 PM.
So close.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.